Preseason is well underway, but it's contracts that are stealing headlines across the National Hockey League.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome inside this Wednesday, October 1st edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me 5 days a week over at Locked On Ottawa Senators. And as always, it's a Battle of Ontario edition. I'm joined by Mike DiStefano from Locked On Maple Leafs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just head to FanDuel to get started. So the calendar's officially flipped. We are 6 days away from the openers of the NHL season. But Mikey, over the last 24 hours, it's been record-setting contracts.
Yeah. Kirill the Thrill or Dollar Bill Kirill, whichever one you want to go with. I guess the latter is probably more fitting nowadays. Signing a record-setting deal, 8 years, $17 million AAV, a whopping $136 million for Kirill Kaprizov. What a contract that they just handed out to this man.
And I have so many takes on this, but
I know.
To start, it was almost a shame. They had just finished recording yesterday's Locked On NHL, where one of the hosts is Seth Tupel from Locked On Wild. So we had to get his take on what he thinks of the big deal.
Breaking Minnesota Wild news as Kirill Kaprizov has signed a record-setting deal to stay in Minnesota. Hey, everybody, Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Breaking it down for you, Kirill signs an 8-year deal worth $136 million. It will carry a $17 million AAV. So it's the richest deal as far as total money and the richest deal as far as average annual value in NHL history. Now, the deal, according to Michael Russo, reportedly includes a massive signing bonus for Kaprizov and will keep Kirill in Minnesota for the foreseeable future. The long national nightmare is over. We can OPA all day long. For more on this deal, as well as the Minnesota Wild heading into the 2025-2026 season, make sure to follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Shout out to Seth Tupel. Does a great job over at Locked On Wild. And the Wild just had to do this, right? Like,
they're handcuffed. They had to. They did. They did have to do it. And, I have two thoughts on the contract extension. And my initial thought was, whoa, that's too much money. What the heck is Minnesota doing? That was my initial thought. And then I went and I actually took a look at where their cap situation is. They could actually afford to do this. And I think that's something that Bill Guerin deserves a lot of credit for. He's kept things pretty tidy over the last couple of years. Now, part of it is because, he couldn't hand out big contracts because he had those buyouts that look as though maybe they worked out well for him because he was able to keep numbers pretty low, right? Like he's got Matt Boldy signed for like $8 million. They've got Brock Faber locked in. They've got Joel Eriksson Ek locked in. Like they've got their core locked in for many years, like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They're already locked in. Kirill Kaprizov was the last guy who they had to worry about. Who else they got to sign?
Philip Gustafson.
Okay. Well, yeah.
He's not going to break the bank, but
exactly. But
that completes the core.
Sure. But I mean, like, they like Wallstat. Wallstat could be their guy of the future. You know what I mean? Like, he's a guy who could definitely, who they do have signed to an extension for a few more seasons, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, Kirill was the last big guy that they had to get done, get signed, and they had a lot of space to make it happen. And they were able to use that to their advantage. So, okay, $17 million. It's a record-setting deal. It's a lot of money. And in comparison to what everyone else in the NHL is making, it is an overpay in that perspective. But the Wild, were able to do this. They could afford to do this. And they had to do this. So, all in all, it maybe was a jarring headline to read, but it makes sense, certainly for the player, made sense for the team because they had to get this guy signed and they were able to do it and they got it done. So at first I was getting ready to harp on the Wild, calling them idiots. How could you do this? You're crippling your franchise. But they've done a good job setting themselves up for some success over the next few years. giving Kirill Kaprizov an extra 1, 2, 3 million, not necessarily the worst thing in the world to keep your superstar, because he was jetting. If you didn't hit this number, clearly turned down 16 million 2 weeks ago. So he had to hit 17 or he was hitting free agency next year.
And it's funny because this deal could actually become a little bit higher because Kirill Kaprizov is getting a base salary of $1 million per season. Everything else is in signing bonuses. And if and when the new CBA, which we imagine will push the salary cap to the minimum higher than $1 million, that would automatically be applied to this. So it could go up 50,000 a year,
Oh,
500,000.
hold on.
Yeah.
Is that actually a thing?
You can't make less than the league minimum.
Even if your contract was signed before that? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. It'll be slight. It won't be the biggest thing in the world, but it is kind of a funny, like, hey, you just got 136 million, but we're probably going to end up tacking on another like million or two over the course of the 8 years because of that little nuance.
You're positive? Hold on, you're positive that that's a thing? Like those contracts don't like
you can't make less than the minimum.
Well, but if you signed a contract for what it was, I mean,
no.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was the case. Like I thought there was a possibility. Like if you signed a deal, like you signed a 3-year deal at league minimum this year, and league minimum goes up by 50K. I thought whatever, you're making less than league min.
No, everyone's making league minimum for sure.
Okay, all right, cool.
But with that, this type of contract will not be valid as of next year because the signing bonuses are outrageous through the entire thing.
He's making $128 million in signing bonuses. $128 million of this $136 million contract is in signing bonuses. Like, isn't that insane?
It's amazing and good for him because he knows.
Fairly front load. I think 20% of that contract he's getting in the first year, if I'm not mistaken.
The first 4 years are all the same. $18.1 million US will be going to his bank account for straight July 1st.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out. Let's get into the player he is. He's worth the price of admission. If he didn't get injured, he was the front runner for the MVP before he got hurt. He was ridiculous to start the season. And we did our top 10 players in the league, Mikey, and he was like 11, 12, but we each said like he's getting better. I know he's 28 years old. He came over a little bit later on, but still, this guy is unbelievable, a true game breaker in the league.
When we did our top 100 for the Locked On NHL, right? And that list is coming out. I believe I had Kaprizov. I ended up getting him into my top 10. I think I had him at eight, I want to say. I think I had him as the 8th best player in the NHL. Like he's good, and man, like he's a stud, and he's going to be for a few more years. The only issue I have with the contract, I guess, is like it's an 8-year deal. He's not that young. Like for a player who's only been in the league for 5 years, like he's older. Like he came in at 24, so he's what, 28 years old right now. I believe.
Yes,
8 years that takes him to 37. I mean, how many more prime years does he have? And you could argue there might be 3-4 more years of prime hockey at that. And then you're looking at the back half of that contract, and it's going to be a steep decline. But that cap hit's gonna still stick at 17 million, and that's if he stays healthy. The injuries that he's accrued over his career, suggest that the guy's probably going to miss a dozen games or so a year, if not more. 17 million for that. It is a little bit of a head scratcher that he was able to hold out and get top dollar, top term, and become the highest paid man in hockey history.
And because he came over so late, he only played 1 year on his entry level and then jumped right up to the deal he's on now, making $9 million. So his annual salary over the course of his NHL career is going to absolutely be the highest of all time right now until the next man up, which of course is Connor McDavid, due for an extension anytime. And the clock continues to tick. Hey, what do you think about the Wild having signed 3 of the 10 most richest contracts in NHL history? It's a tie for 9th with Suter and Parise on the same day. The top 10 contracts in total dollars in NHL history. I won't read out the numbers. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of millions. It goes Kaprizov, Ovechkin, Draisaitl, Weber, Crosby, Kovalchuk, McKinnon, McDavid, Suter, Parise. Top 10 deals in NHL history.
I mean, for a team that hasn't won a whole lot, it's kind of wild, pun intended, that they've got 3 of the top 10 most highly paid contracts doled out. And I don't think they've won a single round since signing those deals.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But Kaprizov wasn't the problem this year. I know he had a really tough playoffs in 2023.
Well, he
Dude, he had
was
9 points in 6 games.
Yeah, again, I meant the fact that he wasn't available to them for half the season. That was the problem for the Wild.
Yes, correct. But when he played, because again, he's had 2 pedestrian playoffs, one really good one before this year in 2022, where he had 7 goals in 6 games, but he had 5 goals, 9 points in 6 games. Hell of a player,
dude,
and he's going to be fun to watch.
If this guy's healthy and can play a full 82, like he's going to be in the MVP watch. He's going to be in the MVP Hart Trophy watch. You know, he's someone who next year when we do the top 100, if he stays healthy, which has been a big issue, it's a big if. Like he's someone who could possibly threaten like to jump into that top 5. You know, like he could. Like, is it that much of a stretch to say Kirill Kaprizov could have a better season than Nikita Kucherov? I don't think so.
That's the guy I was going to say who, as he's getting older, 32 now, like
just swap out them Russian wingers. Just swap them right in and out with each other.
It's unfortunate we won't see those two together at the Olympics. Kaprizov, by the way, already an Olympic gold medalist. He was still in Russia while that. 21. And I looked up that roster. That I don't want to say would have competed in an NHL included Olympics, but Pavel Datsyuk was on that roster. Ilya Kovalchuk.
2018?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had Vladislav Gavrikov, Artem Zub on the back end. Their goalie was Ilya Sorokin. Like they brought a pretty good team to that 2018 Olympics where they took advantage of no NHLers there and certainly made the most of it. Kaprizov was second in scoring at that Olympics with 9 points in 6 games. Exact same numbers, actually, 5 goals, 4 assists as he had this last playoff. So what's next for the Minnesota Wild? Go check out Locked On Wild for more on that. We know that over in New Jersey, it's been a grind to get Luke Hughes signed. Well, they did. But this cost actually surprised me more than Kirill Kaprizov. I'll explain why next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. I use Monarch Money for my finances, and I love it. Most people can't even name all their financial accounts or what they're worth, whether it's their 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop and your phone. It's built for people with busy lives. Monarch Money makes putting organization easy and at the forefront. It does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. We're part of Locked On Podcast Network. We have local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. So type in Locked On, insert team name here, and you'll be directed exactly where you need to be. So like and subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts. It goes a long way to helping the network grow. Mikey, how many shows do we talk about Mason McTavish, Luke Hughes? These guys, it took so long to sign, of course. Mason McTavish, about a week ago, gets that 6x7 deal. And for Luke Hughes, it's a 7-year extension at $9 million per season. He, at least for the next 24 months, will be the highest paid Hughes brother. And I think he would be the first to admit he's the least talented as of right now.
That's why you gotta clown him like that. Why you gotta diss Luke Hughes? He just got paid $63 million. You're gonna go out there and use the word less talented.
I mean, it's a high bar.
Him. It is a high bar. It's a very high bar with Jack and Quinn being the older brothers, being two of the top 15 to 20 players in the NHL. That's someone's surprising.
Did you see what Trevor Zegras said about Quinn Hughes the other day in an ESPN article? He said he's the best player of all time.
It's a little bit of a stretch, but sure, Trev. He's a great player. He's a top 10 player in the league all time. That's a bit of a stretch. But no, I mean, these Hughes brothers are obviously super talented. And Luke being the youngest one, $9 million's very questionable to me, though. Like, what has he done to earn a $9 million contract for Luke Hughes? He had 44 points last year, which is good, but it's not unbelievable, for a guy who's been in the league for a couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as though it was his rookie season. It's not like it was Lane Hudson who went off. Like, he's making the same amount of money as Cale Makar. And I get it. That Makar contract was signed years ago. But like that's the type of money we're talking about right now for Luke Hughes. He's not even close to being Cale Makar. He hasn't shown that he could be or is a top pair defenseman quite yet. He might project to be that, but $9 million just seemed a little too high for me for Luke Hughes. And now New Jersey's in a cap crunch. Like they're what, like $4 million over the cap right now? Like they're gonna have to do some gymnastics to get under the cap by next week.
Yeah, that's an interesting point there. Like you look at what he brings to that lineup, though, like they needed him. There's a huge hole on the left side, and they got Brendan Dillon, who at this point at 34 is a depth defenseman that can be physical and kill penalties. Jonas Siegenthaler, they're very high on, but they needed that game-breaking type talent, and that's what they expected when they drafted him 4th overall a few years ago. And it's gonna have to be another step forward because Dougie Hamilton, who I don't know if those two necessarily chemistry-wise vibe. They both kind of want the puck on their stick and skate and do things in the offensive zone with their creativity. But he's had trouble staying healthy the last number of years. So he needs to really, I think, take it upon himself to lead this team offensively from the back end. And look, his rookie year was great. He actually dropped 3 points, albeit in 11 less games. So point per game, he still did take a slight step forward. But they're going to need him to be a plus player. They're going to need him to be a more physically mature player now that he's going into his quote unquote opening, I would say, in the next couple of years, his prime, now that he's 22 years old. He's going to have a lot on his plate. And I think that teams are going to target him on the forecheck. They're going to dump it in his corner. He's a great skater, but I think that there's going to be a new level of pressure on him now with this deal. So I think he's either going to sink or swim. I don't think this is one where next year we're going to be like, yeah, that's a good deal. I think we're either going to say this was a steal, he took a huge step, or we're going to be like, wow, are we worried a little bit about that contract?
Yeah, no, you're right. It could turn out to be like that. There's a lot of contracts you sign, and at first you're like, that seems a little much, and then they take that step. Jake Sanderson is a great example of that. But there's also many guys where it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like Owen Power, for example, he hasn't taken that step. So it's like, was Owen Power worth that money? Like they made that bet. I'm not sure if that was worth all that in a bag of chips. You know what I mean? So Luke Hughes, we'll see. He still has tons of time. He's still young. He's only 22 years old. And it takes defensemen a little longer to get acclimated to the NHL game, obviously. But it just seemed like a really big bet to me for someone who hasn't quite established themselves as a $9 million player, in my opinion. It's someone that I probably would have rathered do the old song and dance of a bridge deal before, giving him a big money deal with term. To me, I probably would have rather go, 2 by 6, see what you got for the next couple of years, and then we could renegotiate down the road. If you're worth $10 million at that point, you've established yourselves as a top pairing two-way defenseman. Perfect. I'll pay you 10 at that point. But I don't know if I want to make that marriage so soon, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, and that's a great comparison with Owen Power because he went just a few spots ahead of Luke Hughes in the draft. Luke Hughes goes 4th and Owen Power went 1st, but easy to compare the defensemen, but I'll compare the two contracts just signed side by side. Like, I don't think Luke Hughes is a $2 million or better player than Mason McTavish, different positions, but in terms of value and impact to the game, maybe that's just me, but I wouldn't have gone there either. And now the New Jersey Devils, to your point, talk about a cap crunch. And I know Kovacevic is out right now, but that's 6 defensemen making $3.4 million or more on the blue line for the New Jersey Devils. And all of those contracts extend through next season. And 5 of them through the following season, only Brendan Dillon's $4 million will be off the books. Like, that's a lot of money to put into a blue line where I would say it's a good blue line, but I wouldn't say it's best in the league.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a lot of money that they're putting back there for the defense. Now they've really beefed it up lately, right? Like they brought in Brett Pesce, they brought in Brendan Dillon,
Yeah.
Dougie Hamilton. A few years ago was a big time free agent addition that they made there. They got a couple of young guys who are going to push for some spots, obviously.
Well,
But that's
Nemec has been pushing, it feels like, for 2 years.
trying to, he's trying to push. He's trying to make his way there. Seamus Casey, he's a guy that I know they have a lot of appreciation for as well. More of like an offensive defenseman in a way. But that's an expensive blue line. That's a very expensive blue line for I don't know, a group that doesn't look like they're studs by any stretch of the imagination. But I'll be curious, man. Like, did you have the Devils in the playoffs?
I did, but I'm going to slap the prove it year for the Devils.
Yeah, for sure.
If they fall flat or get a first round exit, and even if it was a beatdown, Carolina just ate them up in the first round this year.
It's year 2 with Keefe, right? Year 2 with Sheldon Keefe. So you've got a full season. You know what you got in the coach. The coach knows what he has in the players. Now
veteran team too.
Very veteran team. They've been around each other for a lot, especially the forward group. Like they've been with each other. That core has been around, and they're on their second coach, and now on the second year with that second coach. This is when the adjustments have to be made. So this is a massive prove it year for New Jersey. If it doesn't happen this season, I don't know. Like it seems like it could be a team that has to make a tweak at that point. And then it's like, oh, are these guys becoming the Maple Leafs? Like are these guys becoming, like that the Sharks, where it's like, hey, built a good group, but just never really got over the hump.
Yeah, and it's gonna likely, unless there's trades, be the same team, not this year, but next year. Like they're a team where
locked in.
All their guys, it feels like they've got 10 forwards signed. One of them's Curtis McDermott. So let's say they got 9 forwards signed 10 forwards signed at $2.5 million or more. So those are all guys you expect to be in the lineup for this year and next with that heavy defense core in terms of cap. And then the next piece of business for the New Jersey Devils is 35-year-old Jacob Markstrom. And they're on a sweetheart deal in the sense of they've got 31% of Markstrom's contract right now retained by Calgary. So
he's got. I'm not sure he makes like too much more realistically than what his current ticket is.
Heard they were offering 5. Wasn't that what Kevin Weeks was saying?
Yeah, and like that sounds about right for someone who's 36 years old. It might be, on the downturn of his career, 5, maybe 5.5, 6 million, I suppose. But they've got some cap space. Like I'm just looking, they got 15 million in space next season, even after this deal with Luke Hughes. So they'll have some money to give to Markstrom, and then there'll be enough money to make one more big addition in free agency or try to make a trade of some kind if they can find a partner, but. They're in a good spot financially, cap wise. They just have to start performing, right? That's it. They got to start performing. The GM, I think the front office has done a good job to put together a quality roster on paper. Now you got to do it on the ice.
Yes, they do. I wonder if they're going to try to tempt Markstrom with a deal like they gave Jake Allen, where you keep the AAV down and you give him a long-term deal despite being like that. Like they gave 35-year-old Jake Allen a 5-year contract last summer. So we'll see what happens with the New Jersey Devils, but very, very intrigued by them. It's time for them to take another step forward, and Luke Hughes is no exception. Plenty of other news and notes from around the NHL we'll get to next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner here at the Locked On Podcast Network. NHL season is coming. Make sure that you're ready for it by getting your future bets in. Right now, new customers who bet just $5 will get $300 in bonus bets. If that bet wins, you can use it across the app. So I always like to look over at FanDuel. I'm getting excited too. There's a few ridiculous prop bets, and those are always fun to just track, have some fun with. But in all seriousness, team over-unders is something that I love. You look for where there could be a bit of a disconnect from where you believe a team will finish and where their point totals go. There's typically decent money to be had there. I'm also looking at who should and shouldn't make the playoffs. And if I'm looking at plus money, Mikey, we both like Columbus as a team knocking at the door. You can get that at plus 195 right now over on FanDuel. I like that number for them. If you're like me, quack, quack, I like the Ducks as a betting team all the time. And yeah, it's got some good days, some bad days, but plus 240 to make the playoffs in an awful Pacific Division, in my opinion. Could that happen? Well, if you believe it, go have your say over at FanDuel. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. Mikey, if Lucas Dostal's injury is longer term, I will not be betting on the Anaheim Ducks. It sounds like he's just out day to day. We got a couple other injury notes. Jonathan Toews, and if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, you're like, no.
A hockey fan, man. Just a hockey fan. Like, I think everyone was excited to see Jonathan Toews resume his career and get back to playing, see if he could, get anywhere near to the heights of what he was in his prime. I don't think anyone was expecting prime Johnny Toews, but I think they wanted to see him be a meaningful contributor to this Winnipeg Jets team. And he suffers an injury in yesterday's game against the Minnesota Wild. We don't know what the timeline is yet. The quote that came up from the team was that he, quote, tweaked something. What that thing is, not quite sure yet. No update as of time of this recording. But yeah, it's a real big blow. I think we're excited to see Toews resume his career and might he's going to start the year now behind the 8 ball, and that's always tough when that happens. I imagine it's tougher for a guy who's missed 2 years of hockey.
Yeah, they are going to reevaluate him, so no official prognosis has been given. But for a team that's already going to start the season without Adam Lowry and who just got awful news about Dylan Sandberg out 6 to 8 weeks, that guy is a stud. That's tough. But they still have
you're in Winnipeg. You're in Winnipeg, though. Like, is there some
people are nervous?
Bells ringing at this point where it's like, man, if we don't get off to a good start, like what's the season going to be?
Yeah, and I think there's also a lot of eyebrows lifted about Kaprizov's deal here because Kyle Connor's due for a contract extension, and by all accounts, he wants to stay in Winnipeg. I'm going to be curious to see what happens.
Really quick, what's the number? What's your prediction? What would it take to keep Kyle Connor in the peg?
What would it take, or what would I be willing to give?
What would it take?
I'd say 11.5.
I think he's worth 11.5.
Yeah,
so I'd give him that contract. Winnipeg,
I wouldn't go higher.
Yeah, probably not. But I think 11.5 is a good number. I think that's a good number for him.
Yeah, I think so too. And he's best buddies with Connor Hellebuyck too. So Hellebuyck obviously signed long-term. Maybe it's a 7-year deal, but at the same time, get that 8 years while you can before it's off the table when the new CBA kicks in. So yeah, I'll be very interested to watch that because like they're already, I mentioned the injuries, and then there's Nikolai Ehlers. You replace that with Gustav Nyquist, who had a very down year last year with Nashville. He had a great year 2 years ago, over 70 points. So how much of Ehlers' offense? It won't be all of it, but how much of it can Gustav Nyquist take on? That's going to be one of the big questions in Winnipeg. But sucks for, like you said, hockey fans that won't get to see Jonathan Toews on the ice. Not 100% ruled out for the opener, but it'll be better to see him when he's back. The ovation he's going to get for his first game and his hometown team. It's going to be something to see. So hopefully that's when they do the full lineup introductions for the home opener at the very least. What other stories caught your attention around the NHL this week, Mikey?
The Oilers got a goalie. They traded for Connor Ingram, who was placed on waivers and sent down to the minors. He had a big contract, so I'm not surprised that nobody claimed him. I think his deal was like $1.9 million or something like that, signed with Utah a couple of years ago. They traded for him, and Utah retained $800,000 of that contract. So if Ingram doesn't, work out, they can just bury him in the minors, and it won't have any effect on their cap. So they made sure that obviously was something that worked. But they're bringing in a guy who has had some success at the NHL level, and it's just going to be another roll of the dice. If an injury occurs, he's someone with NHL experience who could come in, play some games. But it's still a gamble. It's not as though this solves the goaltending question in Edmonton, but it adds one more guy to the mix, and maybe you catch lightning in a bottle, and you find someone who can win you some games. So I like the bet, considering they were able to get the retention there, where it won't impact the books at all if he doesn't work out.
And well, with that, then, like, are you confident that he's still got game in the NHL? Like, he's had some great stretches.
Yeah, like that's it. Stretches, though, right? Like stretches. I'll never forget that one game when he was in Nashville. Remember, they ended up losing to Colorado. It was a playoff game, but it went to like overtime, maybe even double overtime, and they lost 2-1. He made like 60 saves in the game. Like, it was unbelievable, like the stops that he was making. And then eventually, lost it in OT. But like that's always my big memory of Connor Ingram. It's like, man, if he could do that though, like if he can unlock that every now and then, maybe you got something. But yeah, like he it's not a sure bet that it's going to solve their goaltending problem, but it's just someone else to add to the mix, and maybe it works out. Like Stu Skinner was that guy where it was like, yeah, we'll add him into the mix. Wasn't like a highly touted prospect, but like, we'll add him into the mix. We'll see what happens. Turned out to bring him to 2 cup finals. Not that I think Ingram will do that or could do that, but it's a worthwhile gamble for Edmonton, I'd say.
Is there a player in the NHL that has more pressure on them this season than Stuart Skinner?
I mean, I'll take the field. I'll always take the field on something like that, but there is
top 3
insane amount of pressure. Like, for sure there is tons of pressure on him to perform. Just because if he doesn't, 97 might decide to exit stage left. So like that,
you don't want that on your conscience. And isn't Skinner an Edmonton guy?
Yeah.
You don't want that.
No.
You know what I do want? NHL hockey. And next time you hear from us, it will be game day for opening night. Let's go. We're 1 week away. We can do it. Just one more weekend, get through it. And then we got NHL hockey. It's such a great time of year, though. NHL hockey fantasy pools are starting up. Drafts are going on. Everybody is trying to get an edge. And if you want an edge on any team, make sure to check out their local Locked On NHL shows. We've also got the NHL Fantasy Hockey Podcast, so you can get all prepped up there. For today, we say goodbye. For Mike DiStefano, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On NHL Podcast, your team every day.